item of business on the agenda is the appointment of a chair for this meeting. So, councillors, can I have a nomination, please?
I nominate Councillor Harris.
Thank you. Are there any other nominations? Okay, thank you. Are you happy that Councillor Harris chairs this meeting? Thank you very much, Councillor Harris. Hand over to you.
Thank you very much, and good morning all. Welcome and announcements is the first piece on the agenda. I welcome you to this meeting on the 8th of July. I am Councillor Dave Harris. I'm a councillor for Beerchurch Ward, and I will be, as you heard, chairing the meeting this morning. To begin with, there are a few matters of housekeeping. If you could mute your mobile phones, etc., just to make sure we don't get interruptions, because that's the last thing we want anybody to do. So, with the exception of the Democratic Services officers advising us, would participants all please mute their microphones unless they are invited to speak? That's when the red light comes on. The public section of this hearing is being broadcast live on the Council's YouTube channel, where it will be available to view later. I will then ask for the item of business to be presented, and we will then proceed in accordance with the hearing's procedure guidance, which will ensure that anyone who wishes to has ample opportunity to address the committee. To summarise that procedure, I will invite the licensing officer to present the report, and then invite the applicant to present their case. Members of the public or their representatives who are parties to the hearing will then be invited to make their case to the subcommittee. There will be an opportunity for any clarifying questions from the committee or any other party. I would, however, direct the attention of all parties to the information set out in the licensing subcommittee procedure rules contained in the agenda document, which detail how this hearing will be conducted. I will remind all those attending as a representative of an interested party that they are required to limit the scope of their comments to the contents of the representations that has already been made and may not add any additional evidence of their own. We may have a break at 12:30, subject to the progress of the meeting. I will now introduce all present, starting with my right. Each participant to confirm their name, please, and that they understand the procedures that I've just read out to you. Councillor?
Yeah. Councillor Cole Powling, Mersey Pyfleet Ward.
Agreed?
Agreed.
Councillor Claire Osborne of Shrub End Ward, and agreed.
I'm Rebecca Strawn. I'm a legal advisor to the committee. I understand and agree.
And Matthew Evans, Democratic Services Officer, agreed, Chair.
Sarah White, Licensing Team Leader, agreed, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Item 3 is substitutions. It's a normal agenda item. There are no substitutions. Each of the 3 councillors present today in front of you are members of the Licensing Committee and can sit on this committee. Item 4, declarations of interest. I invite councillors here present to declare any interest for any item that's on the agenda.
None.
No interest.
Thank you very much. Item 5, minutes of the previous meeting. The subcommittee is asked to confirm that the minutes of its meeting of the 9th of August 2023, including those minutes contained in Part B of this agenda, are an accurate record.
Agreed.
Thank you very much.
Agreed.
Thank you. Okay, item 6 is the meat of today's agenda. It's an application to vary a premises licence under the Licensing Act 2003 of the new Leather Bottle Public House, Shrub End Road, Colchester. And I invite the licensing officer to present the report.
Thank you, Chairman. As you've mentioned, the application has been received to vary the premises licence already in place at this premises. The application in front of you was amended following discussion with Essex Police and the Council, and the amended hours are shown in the report. In addition, a further condition has been agreed by the applicant with the Council's Environmental Protection Team, and again, Chairman, this is shown in the report. Just to be clear, the conditions set out at point 2 are the conditions already in place on the licence. Representations have been received and these are set out in the report, Chairman, and nothing further to add. Thank you.
pardon me. I invite the applicant to present the case, please.
Good morning, Chair. Thank you. Good morning, councillors. As you've heard there, this application initially was for midnight and then 1 a.m. on Friday and Saturday. And following consultation with responsible authorities, the applicant agreed to amend the application. And essentially, the application is now for an extra hour on Friday and Saturday nights. That extra hour sits, as you see, within the pack, within the council's framework licensing policy for hours, midnight on Friday and Saturday. The question we would ask you to consider is, will the grant of this application likely undermine those licensing objectives? And the argument we would put forward is that no, it won't, because at present, I don't know if you know the history of this premises, but it's a circa 17th century building. It's one of the oldest pubs in and around the centre. It is a pub, and the owner, Mr. Hillier here, would like it to remain as a pub. However, at present, the current economic climate means that it's not really a viable financial option for him. He's currently subsidising the premises to maintain that viability. He has had some offers from various different types of restaurants. Some Turkish offer came in a while ago, and another Indian restaurant wants to take it over. It did go on the market in 2020, and there were no buyers at the time. The current makeup of the pub, and we had a little chat about the last few months and the weekends on Friday and Saturday nights. Friday and Saturday nights aren't that busy. I realise that contained within the representations, there's a large amount of comments made by people in and around the premises. However, I think if you were to look through the CCTV, quite often you would see a handful of people there. One of the reasons for that is that 11 p.m, quite often patrons will leave the premises to go to other premises within the area that have those later hours. There's no real desire to hugely expand the offering or make the pub really busy, but it's to try and retain the customers that are currently there and stop them from leaving the premises. In terms of how pubs in a broader sense, where they make their money, it tends to be on those Friday and Saturday nights. As I used to be a licensee, and I had a number of high street pubs, 60% of a pub's weekly income comes within a small few hours on Friday and Saturday nights. Tends to be from 9 to 12. That small fraction of the hours the pub are open is where the majority of the income comes in. This application is really just to ensure that the premises can remain viable. In terms of will it undermine the licensing objectives, we would say no. The pub generally from 11 to 12 will be no different than it is from 10 to 11. And we'd invite any questions.
Did you want to add anything?
We'd just like to have a level playing field with other pubs, you know, within 200 or 300 yards of it. And not even a level playing field, we're only asking for a 12 o'clock licence, and we step back from the 1 o'clock licence. And I just think that's reasonable. And I think any residents who live near that pub, obviously bought their home or were born there, you know, way after that was a pub. It's been a pub for many decades, and I don't think I've any complaints ever. And it's been kept good. During the lockdown, we the old regime that was there, it was at least 2. Nothing to do with me running it or having the premises licence at the time. It sort of it fell into decline, should we say, and it sort of self-imploded a bit with the lockdown. But that's all been rectified, and we're doing our best to keep it in line. And that's all I can say, really.
Thank you very much for that. Thank you. So, in summary, just to tease out again, it's only for an extra hour on Friday and Saturday you're asking for. Okay. Councillors, any questions? Councillor Powling?
Not at this stage, no.
Councillor Osborne? Yeah.
Yes, I do have a question. I'd like to bring the attention of condition 16 on page 14. How is it possible that residents are saying that the doors are still being left open, even though it is a condition, existing condition? Thank you.
Did you get the question okay? So it's one of the conditions that the windows and doors shall be secured after 9 o'clock, and the question from the councillor is some residents are saying that's not happening. Is there any answer to that, please?
When it has been hot in the pub, people have opened the doors, but obviously as soon as I come round again, I'll say you can't have the door open, you've got to shut the door, but they'll pin the doors open. But as soon as it's been noticed, then, you know, I'll tell them it's got to be closed.
Satisfied, councillor?
Thank you for your response.
Okay, I've got a couple of questions from South. Any more, councillor Osborne? No. Okay. Councillor Perry?
You're looking to extend the licence just for 1 hour, but also within the tables on like bank holidays, New Year's and Christmas Eve, will you be looking to extend it so it is to the 1:30 and 12:30 times? Is that staying the same?
I think to reassure yourselves, they were non-standard timings that were put on at the original application.
So they're willing to keep those the same, they're not looking to alter those?
I think the bank holidays, Sundays and New Year's Eve and Christmas Eve, actually yes, looking at them, it probably would be pertinent to have them.
It's not, yeah, they're just asking, it's fine.
Satisfied? Okay. I've got a couple of questions. The extra hour, you're extending that to also include live and recorded music. So if there's bands there, you know, is that the sort of thing that you're planning to do? I mean, this condition that's on there now, the variation, allows that. So I really want to hear more about how that will be controlled if you do have bands. If you don't have bands, then we can take that off of there. But I mean, if
A lot of the reason when people have an event or a party, they don't want to be finished at 11 o'clock. And any bands or any music, we're on a strict regime that the patio doors are kept closed at the back and the windows are shut. And it's, people want to have a good time, you know? And I think that's quite reasonable. And we don't have, very, very rare do we have a band here. More often than not, it's a singer, a solo singer. But this is not on a weekly basis, it's at best 2 monthly basis. Definitely never ever been on a regular basis.
If I may just expand on that, one of the elements of this to consider is the role of the responsible authorities within this. So obviously, we've heard that the police and the council have spoken to the premises. And by way of not putting in representations, I think you can see that their concerns aren't really there. As Mr. Hillier said, bans are not a regular occurrence, but they have occurred and they have been occurring over the last couple of years. Obviously, it's deregulated till 11 p.m, so they've got the option to play that live music or recorded music where they have. If the bans were consistently causing an issue, I think what you would see would be those regular complaints directly to the council. So whilst we have those complaints within the representations, what there isn't are a significant number of recorded complaints directly to the council or to the environmental health team.
yes, so in relation to that, then what you're actually saying to us is that nobody from the residents have actually complained to the council. They put representation to this licence, but they haven't put in their complaints to the council. Could we confirm that? Sarah White, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I believe the council may have had one complaint. Could I just confer with my colleague? Because I believe Karen Booth's got the answer.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, there was a complaint relating to the outdoor area. directed towards environmental protection, but one of the conditions is that people can't be in the area where beside that back door that was mentioned earlier. I believe Alan and I met with Emma at the time, or emailed, I can't quite remember, but then you said we'll keep the back door closed. But to my knowledge, that's the only complaint that involved licensing. There may be others directed towards environmental protection that don't necessarily crisscross onto our conditions, but from a licensing perspective, that is the only complaint I'm aware of.
Thank you very much for explaining that. So my question then comes round to this document, where there's a lot of representation has been made from local residents in writing. We've got people you'll hear from later on that will be verbally, but the ones that in writing are here today, how did you respond to that? Some of those say that they've contacted the pub. Have you had calls? Is there a log of calls? Is there a representation that, you know, you keep a register of who rings up, who complains, etc., and what's happened about those if you do keep a log?
There has been a couple of calls which have been wrote in our diary, and it has generally been because the back door, the patio door was open because there was a band on or it was really hot. The windows are all single glazed in the building as it's a listed building, and some of the windows, you know, are ajar and don't even close properly. But if someone's complained, it has been put in the diary. We've apologised, we've locked the door straight away. You know, but there hasn't been many calls. The pub's generally closed before closing time, and in the past good few months now, before closing time, because there isn't enough customers in the pub.
For the purposes of the bands or discos, do you have a sound limiting device in the pub for which the bands plug into? So if it gets too loud, it cuts them off, like some venues have. Do you have that facility fitted?
There is a condition on the licence there, and when I spoke to the owner and DPS here early on about it, I think it's been fitted. I'm not sure it's been calibrated. It'll probably need double checking because Maxine, who was the licence holder, was responsible for the implementation of the conditions following the grant of the original licence.
Thank you.
So you're offering up that action at some stage in the future to go back and double check that equipment is working correctly?
Well, yeah, there's a condition on there around a noise limiting device installed, maintained and fitted, and it may be worth having an addition to that condition subject to the approval of the Environmental Health Department so that they can then check and calibrate and make sure it's the right standard.
Okay, thank you very much. Any more questions, Councillor Fairley?
No, that's fine, thank you.
Okay.
Would you consider providing door staff on particular large, busy events to prevent and ensure people's safety?
In terms of if there was an anticipated large event, I think it would be reasonable to have that as a condition on there. Again, quite difficult to condition in such a way that you might have an anticipated capacity, but I think, what's the general capacity in the pub?
I think
How many people would you get in there?
the majority of events are private party type events. It just, oh sorry. The majority of times there's any kind of music there is private functions, and to employ door staff, like bouncers for another word, would be pointless and unaffordable, and I don't think appropriate. But if there was ever a large event, for instance, if we're lucky enough to win Wednesday and go on to Sunday to win the cup final, well, maybe that would be a type of event we require it. But other than that, I don't think it's, needed.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. No other questions, councillors? Could I bring you in, Rebecca, please?
I just note on page 13, one of the conditions at 12 says you'll actually conduct a risk assessment to consider the need for door staff. That just, you consider a risk assessment to consider the needs for door staff. Who would be carrying that out, and how will that be recorded?
I think in terms of that condition there, I think it would be a very dynamic risk assessment, and it's kind of as Mr Hillier just indicated, that if they get through to the final, then that would probably be a time you might want to consider door staff. So where there haven't been any sort of, I don't know, significant large events which would have a massive capacity, which would need a detailed risk assessment, but I think as an example, that was a dynamic risk assessment there in terms of what would be needed.
I do note it also needs to be reviewed and produced upon request, so it sounded like it was just make a decision on the day, but I was just seeing how you're actually going to carry out that condition, how that's actually going to be doable.
There was the question, will there be a record of that risk assessment?
I think it could be recorded in a diary if necessary, but I think it's quite onerous for all trading nights, because that would mean on a Monday night when there's 4 people in there, you'd have to do a detailed risk assessment. So
I think it's an obvious thing to the licensee, that what type of event that's going to be, and if it's going to require anyone. To go through that bureaucracy, just to have a party for someone seems a bit too much. It's only a pub. We're trying to keep it a country pub, not a pub, an old-fashioned English pub, and we want to resist. I've had several offers from different operations, different types of cuisines for different restaurants, but myself, it holds a personal link with me, and I would like to keep it as a pub, and I'm doing my best. But we need to be a little bit level playing field with the immediate neighbouring pubs. We're not even asking for a 1 o'clock licence, which they all have. We're asking for a 12 o'clock on a Friday and Saturday. I really think that's reasonable. I honestly do.
irrespective of your decision today, since we have the opportunity to look at the licence as well, could I ask that as part of whatever decision you form, condition 12 may be reworded to change it from for all trading nights, to remove the word all and change it to for trading nights and include the words anticipating a large capacity of persons, just to make sure that the premises can remain compliant.
Can I bring you in there, Sarah? Would that be just a suggestion?
It can be considered by the committee in deliberations.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, my final question, unless Councillor Powling and Osborne have got any others, is really given the proximity to residential properties around the rear and to the side of the new leather bottle, and you've seen some of the comments in here. Had you thought about how you're going to deal with those complaints that are in writing? Whether you thought about having some sort of discussion with local residents, some sort of mediation, sort of work around a table over a cuppa to talk about problems coming up? Had you thought about setting up a forum by which local residents could talk to you and work together as a community? You may have had suggestions about that, or may have even considered it. Had you thought about it?
I think to an extent with these representations coming in, it's come as somewhat of a surprise. And with the representations, I do question myself whether sometimes all a resident or objector will see is the blue notice that goes in the front. So where that original application had midnight and 1 AM, I do wonder if it had simply stated an extra hour midnight to midnight on Friday and Saturdays, would the same volume of complaints been received? Back to your original point, having been involved in dispute resolution, I think it may be pertinent or work to the resident's favour and to the premises' favour to have a single point of contact that the residents can then have an avenue to go through in previous disputes. That's worked quite well, where the residents might think, okay, well, I will speak to someone who will then speak to the pub and say, a resident has said that this causes an issue or not. It might be an option. But I think definitely going forward, it will need to be done.
Thanks for answering that question. Thank you. Councillor Powling?
you talk about the other pubs around you. You talk about the other pubs around you getting a sort of an equal playing field? Do you regularly talk with the other pub landlords, for example? Do you have like a WhatsApp group? So if certain group of people are causing problems in other pubs, and like you say, they then move from one pub to another, do you have a group yourself where you talk to be warned? I know, like the area I'm from, all the pubs are actually on a WhatsApp group together. And if there's a problem, they'll actually tell each other to try and stop the problem moving from one position to another. Do you have that sort of thing?
It's word of mouth. Word goes around very quickly. If there's a bunch of a wrong sort of bunch going around, and it's done purely on word of mouth, and speaking to people going to pubs, and we hear everything that they do, and they hear everything that we do. But there's no actual sort of conversation as such with the other landlords, no.
I don't know if it's worth doing, but would it be worth doing that? Because if you was on say the landlords or the bar managers was within a group and there were problems happening within their pub, word of mouth takes a lot longer than a WhatsApp message. I don't know, with the problems within the area that were previously in the past, maybe it's something for you to consider, especially not part of this, but it might help calm the certain situations arising, should we say. So,
If the situation arose, but we honestly, if there's a bad lot in the pub, without naming it, 200 yards up the road, then we are sort of forewarned.
thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're next moving on to the questions to responsible authorities. We have no responsible authorities here that put applications in except what's in the pack. Is that confirmed, Sarah?
Yes, Chairman, the agreement's been reached with the responsible authorities.
Thank you very much. So we've now got the objectors. And I'd like to welcome to the table, if I may, Michael Bradbutt, who wants to talk on behalf of Mr. and Mrs. Barker. You talk for as long as you like. You push the button. We're very eager to hear what you have to say. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, if I may, through the Chair, I'd like to seek some clarification as to who Paul Hillier is and Paul Hillier, because there seems to be a different name used on different documents. And in particular, I carried out a search at the Land Registry, which indicated that the owner of the pub is a company called Choirbuild Limited. And that company has a sub-director and controller, a Paul Hiller. I would like to know whether that is one and the same person, or in fact they're two different people.
I can confirm I'm Paul Hiller, H-I-L-L-E-R. A lot of people get my name confused with Hillier.
So you are Paul Hiller,
I'm Paul Hiller.
but the application now through the Chair is in a different name.
Sorry.
Rebecca? Thank you.
Just speaking to our licensing officer, that was the name actually on the application, IER, am I correct? So that's why the application was made under the name of Hillier. So I don't know if you can explain that.
I can only assume that Ocean got it wrong. It's quite a common mistake with my name. Not many people have got my name, H-I-L-L-E-R. There's many Hilliers, and I often get referred to as Paul Hillier.
So we can put that down to an administrative mistake, so just so we're clear.
Okay. Continue, sir.
Thank you. I don't propose to go through each individual objection that's been made to this application because I think it's well recorded in the documentation already. I think it is important, though, to register the fact that it's not always easy to keep registering complaints about what happens at licensed premises. It normally happens, obviously, at unsocial hours. But I think the main thrust of the argument, as far as I'm concerned, is that if you look at the objections and the reason for those objections, it's very clear that not even the existing conditions are being complied with. And that situation can only be exacerbated and made worse if the licensing hours are extended. I also think it appropriate to mention that Mr. Hiller, through the company, has been the controller of that site for many, many years. And through that period, there's been no evidence, as far as I can see, to ever properly control what goes on that site. And he is now the licence holder. So I don't think I have anything further to add, Mr. Chair.
Questions to you, sir?
Yes.
Councillor Poling, Councillor Osborne? Just push this up for a second.
I have no.
Not at the minute, no, thank you.
Okay, I have a couple, sir. Thank you very much for coming along and speaking on behalf of Mr. and Mrs. Barker. And what proximity is their property? How many yards away are they from the pub?
They are adjoining owners. Their garden abuts or is contiguous with the pub boundary.
Okay. And do Mr. and Mrs. Barker understand that the only way to get a licence fallen is by making a formal representation to the licensing authority?
Sorry, could you repeat the question?
Yes, certainly. I'll repeat it again in a different way. Do they understand that the only way to actually get a licence looked at by the responsible authority is to put a formal representation to the licensing officers?
I believe that she has. My daughter has. Is that correct?
Oh, there you go. Yeah, a representation has been made in respect of this application, yes. I believe you're probably referring to complaints made in order to potentially review the licence. Would that be right? Yes. So the option is available in the event of sustained problems that are not resolved through negotiation or discussion to review the licence, and that's an option that exists for residents as well as for the responsible authorities. I believe that's what the chairman is referring to.
Yes, can I just respond to that? Unfortunately, I can't remember the lady's name. It was Maxine Birch. When she was there as the licence holder, there was regular dialogue with my daughter and Maxine to deal with any problems, and I believe that a good relationship was established. It was not until we became aware of this application for a variation to the licence that the licence had in fact been transferred to Mr. Hiller. And since that time, there has been no dialogue whatsoever.
Any response, please?
I think it's important just to remember the role of the licence holder and the DPS. So where Maxine may have been the licence holder, Mr. Hillier has been the freeholder since 2013. So in terms of that responsibility as the licence holder, he does take more responsibility, but even though Maxine may have been the licence holder, Mr. Hiller was still the freeholder of the premises. And obviously there were the issues before and the review, and I don't think Mr. Hiller wants to repeat those issues. I don't think we want to be sitting here. If we were of the view that there was a big issue with the neighbours, we wouldn't have put the application in. And this is where, to an extent, they've come as a bit of a surprise. And I think from gathering from what the gentleman said and your comments about increasing that dialogue, I think, if anything, it's definitely identified that that line of communication and dialogue needs to be improved.
Okay, my question to you, Mr. Bradbrook, is you heard the officer talk about originally the application was to 1 o'clock, as I understand. It's now pared back to midnight. What were your reactions to that? Was the complaint put in before that was pared back, or what's your view on the midnight, please?
Well, my view is simply this, that at this moment in time, it's wholly inappropriate to do any kind of variation to the licence because I don't believe there's sufficient evidence to confirm, as it were, that the existing terms and conditions are being complied with. For example, I noticed that during this discussion, the idea of the sound measuring device, it would appear that that's not been installed, and it's a specific condition. And I think it would be wholly inappropriate to vary these hours until a proper relationship has been established, all the conditions are being met, and that might provide a way forward. But at this moment in time, I cannot see a basis for endorsing or recommending in any way a change to the current licence.
Thank you. Any reaction?
Just in relation to the complaint history and the allegations being made, so within these representations, there's allegations being made that the conditions are being breached. Obviously, any sale of alcohol would be unlawful if any of those conditions aren't being adhered to. I think after this, we'll go back and, with a fine-tooth comb, go through these conditions and make sure they are all being complied with 100%.
So the sound monitoring system, is it in place?
I believe so, but following this meeting, I'll be going over to double check.
For myself, we need to hear today whether that's actually in place and is going to be double checked for working or whether it's not in place. Reason is because it's a condition that's already in place, you see, that monitoring should be there.
I believe it's locked away in the sports bar in terms of how to access it and calibrate it. Emma, the current DPS, isn't aware of how to do that. I hope that it is calibrated, but it may be the case, obviously, irrespective of this licence, it may need the Environmental Health Department to also double check that the levels are set right. Because you could have there's different types of limiters you can get. Provided this one is linked up to the whole sound system, it depends on the decibel levels that will come out. And that judgment shouldn't really be left to the licence holder to make that assessment on the decibel levels. Because you could install a noise limiter, but the decibel level could be set so high that a band could be playing out music that's too loud before it actually kicks.
Mr. Padley?
With the noise limiting device, are you saying yours is a portable one or a fixed one?
Well, I think it's fixed.
Because if it's fixed, the microphone should be put in a certain area, the level would be set to meet requirements, and it should be a designated socket or power point that the relevant band have to use. For what you said earlier, I thought the fact is you haven't got it calibrated.
I'm not 100% sure on that.
No, that's the impression I've got. But being locked away in a cupboard, to me, sounds like it's a portable version rather than fixed. If it's fixed, it would be already fitted and a microphone would be mounted within one of the bar areas.
Sorry, just on the noise limiter condition, the current one at 17 is obviously different to the, what page are we on? Current one at 17 on 14 doesn't give a huge amount of detail about what is required of any noise limiter really. It's the agreed condition with the Environmental Health Department that will be subject to the grant of this application that would change that.
Okay, you have your answer.
Thank you.
Sir, anything else you wish to add?
Well, only that I think it's rather convenient to describe having the wrong name on the application is not just an administrative error. I think it just goes to the core of the whole application, but obviously you'll no doubt take appropriate legal advice on that point.
Thank you very much. Anything else?
No, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming and speaking to us. Thank you for your honesty. Thank you. I next have Mrs. Moorhen. Welcome. You have as long as you like, and please tell us how you feel and what your representations are, please.
Okay, so I am probably the nearest neighbour to the leather bottle, and I have spoke to Paul on many occasions, and we have had some dialogue over the years, if you recall. So my garden, my house, my lounge, where I sit, is here, and I would say the leather bottle doors are where those white doors are. So that is the level of music that is coming into my lounge at night time. It's not about timings or anything, it's about the breaking of the rules of not shutting the doors and not having a decibel reader. If those two things had been adhered to, we wouldn't be sitting here today. But the fact is, the noise is unbearable when you either you have a disco, so even with that noise and all the people playing snooker and congregating where that open door is, it regardless of whether it's a band or not, the noise level is through the roof because those doors aren't shut. Now, I have rung up on several occasions, 11 o'clock or 10:30 when it's been horrendous, to get no answer because, of course, they don't hear the phone, do they? So I don't think it's up to me to have to police or marshal that opening of the doors. Now, I have got evidence, I've got video evidence of the door being open, the congregation of people outside of that door. I've also got the evidence of a bouncy castle being erected in where the accommodation block is, where, as far as I'm concerned, that's not even licensed premises. So why are they having a bouncy castle there, kids on that bouncy castle, and people drinking in that area, watching their kids? Why is that happening? Which is affecting the other neighbours more so, because that is further towards their garden. So, but to start with, I'd just like to say I do understand, I've been a business owner myself, and I understand the need to be able to make money. And when I moved into the property 28 years ago, the pub was, I presume, still owned by you. Was it you? You owned the pub 28 years ago. You've owned it a long time, haven't you? But 28 years ago when I moved in, the pub was a family, quiet-run pub. Those back doors weren't even there. There was nothing at the back of that premises. They have since been put in the last 6-7 years, I can't remember, following discussion with Mr. Paul Hillier about putting them in, and my concern that that would bring all of the noise to the back area where the residents reside. So that back wall was opened up, bifold doors put in, made fire doors, so they have to have ingress and outgress. And I understand what the lady's saying. They do come in and out to go in and out, but what are they coming in and out for? That's what I want to know. What is out that back that they're coming in and out for? The doors are propped open. I can show you on video evidence. And as requests, as you say, nobody has complained. We were advised by the police, and I can't remember when we spoke to Environmental Health, that to log everything. So if you want the evidence, we'll give you our log. We've got evidence in the form of videos. We just don't ring up in the middle of, 10:30 at night, Environmental Health. Why should we? When we're trying to enjoy it, and even in our own gardens and in the lounge. So I would reiterate what the previous man has said, that the conditions are being broken. All of them that I've mentioned in my complaints are being broken. The access to the car park, which is condition 13, where vehicles must be secured to ensure no entry to the car park 30 minutes after closing and 30 minutes before opening. I don't see that chain across. I come home late at night and there is no secure to that car park. Cars are coming and going even after closing. So that doesn't happen. 15, no waste or cycling materials, including bottles, shall be moved, removed or placed in outside areas between 1 and 8 a.m. I get broken bottles at the end of my drive. I get packages in my front garden, as do the neighbours, and and sometimes vomit. So if that's classed as non-recyclables, that's fine. More importantly for me, conditions 12 and 16, which are the risk assessments to be carried out, which you're saying is inappropriate because it's not doable, but that is a condition, they should be carried out. All windows and external doors should be kept closed after 9, but also whenever there is live music or playing, they should be shut. Staff shall check periodically to ensure. This doesn't happen, and I know it doesn't happen because I can hear the noise, I look over the wall and the doors are propped open. I see the staff come in and out, collecting rubbish from the back, still don't close the door after them, so that is not happening. A noise limiter, condition 17, should be installed and operated at the premises when live and recorded music takes place. We've heard today there is no noise limiter. So, in my view, why would you reward somebody that is clearly breaking the rules and making a mockery of all the conditions that you set? If you grant this extension to the licence, variation to the licence, you're just giving us an extra hour of all this inconvenience of living next door to the pub. And we understand there's noise, and I quite like hearing the noise and people having fun, but limit it to where it should be, out the front of the building. Do not have the doors back open, propped open, and do it within a reasonable timescale. If you want to make money from a previous business owner, serve food. That's how you make your money if you want to do that. There's other ways to make your money. So for me, I just cannot see why you would reward somebody who breaks a licence anyway. A solo singer with a microphone is going to be just as noisy as a live band if they're sitting almost in your back garden. And I think that's all that I would like to say, really. It's the back door, no decibel reader that has brought us to this problem. 2 main conditions that have been broken. And what assurance have we got that you're going to sort these out? You're going to shut those doors, because as far as I know, you can't lock them because they're fire doors. Is that correct? Sorry? But they're never locked. They're...
Okay, just take them through me if that's okay as chair. Anything else you wish to add?
Only that I do understand the need to make money, but I don't understand why it has to be those hours. Open longer during the day, offer stuff during the day, offer your party during the day, offer the loud music during the day. Why has it got to be at night? That's all I would say. Just not pleasant. I mean, my rights are being infringed upon. I can't sit in my garden and I can't sit in my lounge and watch telly. If you've got a live band or loud music and the doors are open and the decibel obviously isn't kicking in to stop that music, and I'm not prepared to keep ringing you at night or come over in my dressing gown, come round, knock on your door and say, can you shut the doors? It's not my job to do that. And that's all I'd like to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Questions, councillors?
Thank you for sharing. Would you agree that this is definitely having a direct impact on the quality of your life? And what would you like the owners to prioritise foremost? Thank you.
I would say yes. It's not all the time. Obviously, the loud music and that is not all the time. And on the whole, the Leather Bottle, when it's operating smoothly, is a nice pub and it's well run. But the breaching of the conditions at at weekends with the loud music, it's not just about when the music stops. They've all then got to go home drunk, because people go to pubs to drink. Loud movements going on in the car park, slamming the doors. So even later, if you give a licence till 12, that nuisance noise will continue till at least 12:30, 1:45. There's no doubt about that. And that's very late on a Friday and Saturday night. A lot of people, I mean, I'm a nurse, a lot of people work Saturdays. You know, what about us that have got to get up? It's just not fair. And what I'd like to see happen is that door somehow secured, or as I said to Mr. Hillier once before, or Maxine, I might have said it to, why can't the music be put over the other side of the pub? Why has it got to be there, out the back? Because when there was no door there, we had none of these problems. We didn't hear it. But it's right on our doorstep now. So I'd like to see everything moved to the front of the pub. That would solve everything. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so I was hoping to bring Sarah White, licensing officer, here in. Did you just want to explain, if we can, for clarity, the following condition requested by environmental protection, which has been agreed by the applicant? That's on the top of page 15.
Yes, in what respect do you want me to explain it, Chairman? Sorry.
The words there is a noise limiting device shall be installed, fitted and maintained in such a manner as to control all sources of amplified music at the premises. The noise limiting device shall be connected to all permanent music and public address equipment and all available mains power sockets within the area of the music. Once set, such a device should be inaccessible to the licensee and staff. Now, who fits that? That was the question, and who monitors that set up correctly?
Chairman, it quite often depends, premises to premises, how that is done. The request here seems to be that they'd like environmental protection's input into doing that, and I think that's a conversation that we will need to have with environmental protection around how that is achieved, Chairman. I believe they've done it elsewhere. I'm sure they'll be able to, but I wouldn't want to commit on environmental protection's behalf, but it's certainly a conversation. I'm aware they've done it elsewhere.
Okay, and obviously the word say the applicant has agreed that, so that if this licence was to be granted, that would have to happen with environmental protection guiding. Is that what you're saying?
That's right, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? Yes.
Once again, for the officers, can we, as terms of licence, actually position the sound equipment so as to go to a certain area of the pub? Is one question. Can we do that? And secondly, on the problem does seem to be a patio door. It is a fire exit door, but can it still be a locked door? Because I know there are mechanisms that make it can still be open in case of an emergency. Can that sort of mechanism be fitted so it can't be used only as an emergency?
We're talking about fire regulations here. I'm very hesitant to respond on that, I'm afraid.
I think that's wise.
Sorry, I thought I'd just throw it in. Sorry.
Any other questions to our objector? No? Okay.
Can I just say, any conditions that have been broken and now you're going to go away and make sure they're rectified, what proof as neighbours do we have that the decibel now is working, the doors are now locked, and you're not using a private area for entertainment? What assurance? How do we know that?
I'd like to just clarify a point on conditions. So, a breach of condition isn't the offence. The offence is carrying out a licensable activity when a condition has not been adhered to. The issue with some of these conditions is a lot of them relate to music and live music. Now, that's been deregulated between the hours of 8 a.m. and 11 p.m. So where this was initially put on through the application, a lot of these conditions don't apply because ultimately with music, up until 10:59 p.m. 59 seconds, you are allowed to pretty much do what you want. The condition that's due to be imposed, obviously if the licence is granted till midnight, that noise limiting condition shall be installed, fitted and maintained in such a manner as to control all sources of amplified music at the premises. Once set, such a device should be inaccessible to the licensee or staff. So I think obviously where Environmental Health have worded this condition, they've worded it quite well, because all music will pass through that noise limiter. It won't be accessible by staff. Therefore, even though the condition may not apply, because deregulation comes into place with live music, that recorded music that goes through there during those daytime hours will be controlled by the noise limiter, because it's locked and they won't be able to access it.
You said it's not working.
It's a bit of a funny one. There's a thing called live music deregulation, so that wouldn't apply for this one, because the licence is currently only till 11 p.m. So a lot of those conditions around live music that are on this licence don't actually apply, even though they're on there. But that's where we're seeking for the sale of alcohol and for regulated entertainment from the 11 to midnight. That's when they will kick in. So that noise limiter will
So the
control that.
conditions made are irrelevant, is that what you're saying? They don't apply, they're irrelevant, so you don't have to follow them?
If I could jump in there, through me, it's for that extra hour.
Right.
That's what you've just been told. If you heard what the gentleman said, sorry, I forgot your name. The extra hour, so up till 11, but the application is for 11 till midnight, and that's what that extra hour, so that would, what that condition that would be agreed will be imposed. So that's what he's saying, interpreting what you said, yes?
As far as I read it, the condition for a decibel reader is whenever there is music played. So you're saying that only applies for the extra hour?
On the extra piece on page 15, the top of there, that's
Right.
the bit that I was talking about.
Right,
There's two pieces to that. There's one pre-11 and one past 11.
right.
So, does that help?
But I still ask the question, is conditions, how will we know if what we're asking for, the doors to be kept shut, the decibel to kick in whatever time you're stating, how will we know that is happening? Because I don't want to get up from my settee, climb a ladder and look over the garden wall just to check it.
I think moving forward, I know Environmental Health might have said, I'll make a log, keep a log. And in terms of making a complaint, of just a little look online, it does seem fairly easy. But if you want the Environmental Health Department or the licensing department to check that conditions have been complied with, the best way to do that is through official channels. Obviously, if you speak to the guys and they don't respond or you don't feel you're getting anywhere, then definitely that is the route to go down. In terms of those conditions, they do endeavour to close the windows and doors. There's little caveats written within the conditions, so they say for access and egress, which is perfectly reasonable if people want to go inside and outside. But the condition that's got to be imposed with the noise limit condition is good for you, because what it does, even though it only has effect from 11 p.m. to 8 a.m. for live music, because it's going to be locked and because it's going to be set, they're not going to be able to amend it. So at 9 in the morning, that limiter will still be in place. That limiter is going to apply to all the music that comes out of the premises all through the day. And there's one set, such a device should be inaccessible to the licensee or staff. So actually, it probably does you a favour. So whether there is no limits around 10 p.m, because they're not going to be able to access this or bypass it, it will. That makes sense.
Yes.
Can I just ask, why are they coming in and out of the back door? What are they coming in and out for? Because it said, why can't they go in and out the front door?
There's people who live in their rooms out the back, and I can't constantly, obviously, control that. I have that door locked, but there's another door that's just a turn lock on it, and I can't lock that unless I put a bolt or something
But
on it.
that, the overnight accommodation block should have a key, that's got a keypad on it, hasn't it? For people that are staying there, have got that code. So why is that door propped open?
But they can still access it through the pub. There's a key, the side gate has got a keypad
Yeah,
on
but
it.
why are you propping it open and having bouncy castles in that area and parties? We've got 21st birthday party or something you had there.
That was a long time ago. There was a party out.
But it's
out
not the
back.
point.
You know,
It can be yesterday, it can be a year ago. The fact is, you're not supposed to have events in that area.
Karen spoke to me about it and dealt with it, and you know, there's going to be no parties out the back, and I will make sure the back door's locked. If we could move the music to the other side, and the sports bar windows is a single glazed, I know how loud it is. I've gone outside and stand outside the windows. The windows are some ajar and won't close properly because it's a listed building. The glass is very thin in the sports bar. I see how close your house is. So it probably would be a better idea if we could somehow manage music in the other side of the pub, which is further from the flats. than your house.
That would be a complete answer to all these problems. If you move the music away from that back door, problem solved. I've said it, I've had this conversation before. We had the conversation with Maxine. It was being considered at the time, but there we are. The DJ is right on that door, right sitting here. Open the door goes and in flows the music to all the neighbours.
Fair point, thank you very much. So I've heard what you've had to say. I'm now at the stage where, unless the councillors are going to stop me for another question, I'm going to ask for closing statements. One moment, please. One moment, please. Closing statements, just a very short closing statement from yourself and your colleague. Just a short closing statement, please.
Yeah, I'd just like to say I have chatted to Mr Hillier on numerous occasions. We've got a good dialogue going. We've had quite a few.
Hang on, through the chair.
I was going to phone you the other night, but as your colleagues or your solicitor said, you're not, I assumed you weren't part of, you've always said to me, you're not running it. I have to speak to... Right.
Okay, anyway.
But what I'd like to just say is I do understand you've got to make money. I do understand that, but you've got to consider, if you live next door where I live, you'd be pretty fed up with that noise. Boom, boom, boom. You can't have your windows open in the summer. You can't sleep. It's not about the sleeping because it's like you said, it's not that late. But you can't even watch telly. It's ridiculous.
Okay, well, so in summary, that's your summary of your closing statement?
Yes, so my summary is I understand you've got to make money, but we've also got the right to live peacefully in our house and in our gardens.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Could I bring Mr Michael Bradbrook forward again for a closing statement, a closing statement, please?
Thank you, Chair. I mean, first of all, I'd like to just endorse what the neighbour has just said, because obviously my daughter experiences the same, and it would be some fairly simple things, I think, which would get round a lot of these problems. I do believe that it would be appropriate for there be a period to see whether these issues can be resolved before there's any further extensions. And I also still rather curious as how the application can be in an incorrect name. And I think the committee should consider that as well.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your closing statement. The responsible authorities, I don't know if the solicitor or Sarah White would like to say a few words before we have a closing statement from the applicant, please.
I haven't got too much to add, but on the issue of the name, Chairman, I've just been through our records and the name has consistently been spelled I-E-R on our records. So that's didn't flag to us as an issue because it's consistent across our records.
Noted. Thank you very much. Rebecca, did you have a...
Not until we've heard from the applicant, the closing statement.
Yeah, thank you. So, applicant, closing statement, please.
Thank you. I'll speak briefly and then Mr. Hillier. In terms of that error, that was probably the I inserted at the end. I thought it was Hillier, but reliably informed his surname is Hillier, so that's an error on my part. So apologies there. In terms of what we've heard from some of the residents, there was elements were emotive and they certainly have some specific issues around certain areas. The comments were that on the whole it's been well run. Over the period of 10 years, there has been that review that was when the pub was under different management. Mr. Hillier has got oversight of the pub and I think would welcome specific phone calls if there's definitive issues that have been identified. In terms of the responsible authorities, we haven't had representations from them. There's no recorded complaints. The facility within Colchester's website is very, very simple to do so. The addition of the condition around the noise limiting device is very specific. Will probably require a new one, a new limiter set that will be locked, which will solve some of the issues in terms of the decibels all throughout the day. There was those comments around those back doors being open. Perhaps if you reminded to grant the application, that condition around that specific doors may be reworded to make it a bit more enforceable and deliberate. And in essence, this application is just down to that granting of the additional hour on Friday and Saturday nights. It sits within the local licensing policy. It's still earlier than the 1 AM that's granted to a pub down the road. And thank you, Mr.
In view of what I've just heard here from this lady, it's and I have had various conversations with her in the past, but not I can recall in the last 18 months. But we will, any, whether it's going to be live music events or functions, we will put in the other bar. And I will make special efforts to make sure that that door is locked after 9 o'clock at night.
Thank you very much. Is that your closing statements? Thank you very much. Yes, please, yes. Thank you for that.
Hi, sorry, just can I clarify, Mr. Daly, you said earlier on that the terminal hour for sale of alcohol is midnight across the board, but I just wanted to clarify the non-standard timings here, so that New Year's Eve and Christmas Eve, it goes until 1. Is that the case, or are you just looking for 12 on every day?
No, it's just 12 on Friday and Saturday nights.
And that's it, so there will be no extension of non-standard timings?
Well, I think
No, that's fine, that's fine. I just wanted to be clear. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Rebecca, any final words, Rebecca?
It's just to let everyone who's here know today that the committee will be deliberating in private. I will be assisting them just to decide whether the proposed operating schedule satisfies them, that the licensing objectives will be upheld. Their decision is solely based on what we've seen and heard today. We'll also look to our licensing policy and any statutory guidance.
Thank you very much. Well worded. Thank you, Rebecca. Thank you very much. We are now adjourned. We will retire to another room and consider all we've heard and the applications in front of us. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Robert. Good afternoon. Reconvening the meeting, just for a quick question to the applicant. The reason we're doing that is we're still considering evidence. We're still in deliberations and considering all that's been said to us. But we felt we needed to ask a question of the applicant on the premises themselves. Mention was made from several people, including the objectives today, if the music was at a different place in the bar. And I think you hinted at it, sir, and Mr. Hillier, that you said that it would be a better place to have it for the residents' point of view. We want to be able to mark on a map, at least make some deliberation so that when we go away, we consider that as well as all we're considering at the moment. Would you have a view on that, please?
It would be acceptable for any live music to be in the saloon bar, yeah, away from the lady's house, and no problem with that.
Opposite side of the pub now, we've got sports bar, saloon bar, and restaurant.
Sorry, if we have the plan the correct way up. The sports bar is in the southern indication of the plan. You'll see this is the bar area here. And there's a wall with a door there. And then this is the saloon bar to the top end of the plan.
So could I just, for what you've just said, if I put across, would you agree that that could be a suitable location?
Suitable location for a van.
And the restaurant, saloon bar. So there's a sports bar on the side, saloon and restaurant.
Yeah, in that area.
Yeah.
That whole, that area from the bar back, yeah? Yeah.
Just to clarify, were you considering a specific location for a DJ and/or singer?
What we're asking for is there is a suggestion in the discussion about if the music was in a particular location away from where it currently is, near the patio doors, it would be better for the residents and all concerned. What we wanted to know for
Can I just
our
mark it?
deliberations today is exactly where that was.
You got a pen?
Yeah, the sound one, they would have to be set up here because they were not going to be able to get in and the saloon bar here, coming through the front door, the people at the bar here, they're going to have to sing here where the entrance
Yeah, but
is.
many times we've had a solo singer there, many times, right there as you go in there.
As soon as you get through the door.
Yeah.
For the minutes, we're just, the applicant is just discussing them amongst themselves.
I think that's acceptable. It's right away from there, isn't it? It's in another bar. Can also add so that there's plans in now, and subject to us being successful of getting this licence to have a new play area for children in the existing beer garden. No more bouncy castles are allowed in pubs now because there's been accidents involving high winds and you cannot get insurance. We don't have no bouncy castles, well, we haven't done for a long, long time. That was a one-off performance, and I believe that was, how long ago was that?
No, the man that lives out the back had it out for his kids.
As a private, but no more bouncy castles.
Okay, so you've got an answer to our query and a marked map. Thank you. Thank you very much. It's convenient back to adjourn the meeting. Will be deliberations. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Reconvening the licensing subcommittee. The decision we've come to is, following careful deliberations, the licensing subcommittee has reached the decision to partially grant the application to vary the premises licence in respect to the premises known as the New Leather Bottle. The subcommittee is determined to grant the modification to the permitted hours for licensing activities which have been applied for, including non-standard timings, and to partially grant the variation which have been applied for with regard to live recorded music and entertainment of a similar description to that falling in with the live music, recorded music or performance of dance until 23:30. Friday and Saturday only, subject to the imposition of the following condition. A noise limiting device shall be installed, fitted, maintained in such a manner as to control all sources of amplified music at the premises. The noise limiting device shall be connected to all permanent music and public address equipment and all available mains power sockets within the area of the music equipment. Once set, such a device shall be inaccessible to the licensee or staff. The noise limiting device will be calibrated in conjunction with and to the satisfaction of Colchester City Council's Environmental Protection Team. Additionally, the subcommittee resolved to modify the area within the licensed premises in which live and recorded music and entertainment of a similar description to that falling within the live music, recorded music or performance of dance would be authorised after the hours of 23:30 to the area known as the Saloon Bar and marked by the hatched area on the plan attached. In reaching its decision, the subcommittee carefully considered the information which had been placed before it as part of the application, including representations which have been made by all interested parties. The subcommittee carefully considered the council's statement of licensing policy and noted that this premises was located in an area which was considered to be of predominantly residential use, and the policy indicated that a terminal hour for the sale of alcohol of midnight on Friday and Saturday was considered acceptable. The subcommittee took assurance from the amendment of the original variation application which had taken place following discussions with responsible authorities, leading to the reduction in the hours which had been applied for. The subcommittee considered that the primary concerns which had been raised in relation to the application had been in relation to noise, nuisance caused by live music and not the sale of alcohol. It is considered the reduction in the hours applied for regulated entertainment and the modification of the area in which regulated entertainment will be carried out after 2300, together with the agreement which has been agreed with the Council's Environmental Protection Team, was sufficient to ensure that the licence and objectives would be upheld. All parties have the right to appeal this decision to the Magistrates Court within 20 days of this decision, and further information in relation to this will be provided by the licensing officer. In summary, the subcommittee was concerned about some of the answers which have been provided to some questions which have been posed to the applicant at the hearing, which did not appear to the licensing holder was fully aware of some of the current licence conditions. It is the subcommittee's strongest advice that a thorough assessment of the licence is conducted to ensure that every condition is fully complied with immediate effect. We also welcomed the thought that residents and the applicant would work together to ensure that local problems as they arose could be discussed and maybe a hotline developed so that residents have got someone to call that was effective. And I would remind residents, of course, that any time if you wish to raise an objection, the correct way is to the licensing officers of this council. Thank you very much. The meeting is therefore concluded. Thank you for your attendance.